Good morning all. In the last class we have seen the external ear and the tympanic membrane. Now we will proceed for the middle ear. So today's lecture is on middle ear. Now middle ear, it is also called as tympanic cavity, or it is also called as simply tympanum. Clear? To define the middle ear, we can say that it is nothing but the narrow air space and which is situated in the petrous part of temporal bone between external and internal ears. So to go for the simple diagram of the middle ear, now we know that this is the tympanic membrane. So this is the external acoustic meatus, that means this is the external ear. Here there lies the middle ear cavity with its roof. Then this is the stapedius bone with the promontory and with the secondary tympanic membrane, and this is the floor. Now inner to it there lies the internal ear. So detail of internal ear we will see later on. So we know now that this is the external ear and this is the internal ear and this is our middle ear. Yeah. So it is a narrow air space which is situated in the petrous part of temporal bone between external and the internal ears. Now coming to its shape and size. Now middle ear, it is compared to a cube because it is shaped like a cube. So if we see the middle ear schematic diagram, we can go to the cube. So now here we can see, now this is suppose the middle ear, this is the roof of middle ear, this is the floor, this is anterior wall, this is posterior wall, this is lateral wall and this is medial wall. Now from this you can see that its medial and lateral walls, they are large, but other wall are narrow and it is compressed from side to side. Now for the dimension, its vertical and antero-posterior diameter, they are almost equal and it is about 15 millimeter. Now for the transverse diameter, we will go to the coronal section. When seen in the coronal section, it is seen as a biconcave shape because its medial and lateral walls. This is the medial wall and this is the lateral wall. This is the tympanic membrane and this is again the floor. So if we see the coronal section, it is seen biconcave because its medial and lateral walls, they are closest to each other in the center, and therefore transverse diameter, it is different at different level. So it is about 6 millimeter near the roof, it is about 2 millimeter in the center and it is about 4 millimeter near the floor. Clear? So vertical and antero-posterior diameter almost same, it is about 15 millimeter, whereas transverse diameter, it is different at different level, 6 millimeter, 2 millimeter and 4 millimeter. Now coming to the parts of the middle ear cavity. The middle ear cavity, it is subdivided into 3 parts. That is the epitympanum or epitympanic recess, mesotympanum or the tympanic cavity proper, and hypotympanum. Now this is the epitympanum or epitympanic recess which lies above the level of tympanic membrane. Then this is mesotympanum, or it is also called as tympanic cavity proper, which lies opposite the tympanic membrane. And the third part is hypotympanum, which lies below the level of tympanic membrane. Clear? So epitympanum, which lies above the level of tympanic membrane, mesotympanum, which is opposite the tympanic membrane, and hypotympanum, which lies below the level of tympanic membrane. Now coming to the communications of the middle ear cavity. Now for the communications, we will go to the sagittal section. Now if we go for the sagittal section, we can see the anterior wall, then floor of the middle ear cavity, then this is the posterior wall, this is the roof, and we know that posteriorly there lies the mastoid antrum. So this is mastoid antrum with these are the mastoid air cells, and this is the mastoid process. Clear? So this is mastoid antrum, these are mastoid air cells, and this is the mastoid process. Yeah. Now anteriorly it communicates with the auditory tube. So here anteriorly it is communicating with the auditory tube. So this is auditory tube. And whereas posteriorly it communicates with the mastoid antrum through a opening, it is called as auditus to antrum. So in the communication there are two communication, anterior communication as well as the posterior communication. Anteriorly it communicates with the auditory tube, and posteriorly it communicates with the mastoid antrum through auditus to antrum. Middle ear is likened to some pit or trap in the sloping course of auditus to antrum, then middle ear cavity and epitympanic recess of the middle ear cavity and the auditory tube. If you go from posterior to anterior side in the sloping course, this is auditus to antrum, epitympanic recess and the auditory tube. Now coming to the very important heading, that are the boundaries of middle ear cavity. So we have already seen that middle ear has roof, floor, anterior wall, posterior wall, medial wall and lateral wall. So we will go to all the boundaries one by one. So for that we will go to a simple diagram showing the medial wall, roof, floor, anterior wall and posterior wall. So we will go, this is the roof. We know that posteriorly there lies the mastoid process. This is the facial canal with the stylomastoid foramen. Then anteriorly there is canal for internal carotid artery. This is the jugular fossa, and here there is styloid process. Clear? This is the mastoid antrum, and these are again the mastoid air cells. Clear? So with this we will come to the boundaries now. Now first coming to the roof. So roof of the middle ear, it is also called as tegmental wall because it is formed by the tegment tympani. Now roof, it is responsible for separating the middle ear cavity from the middle cranial fossa, and it is formed by the thin tegment tympani. So this is tegment tympani which is forming the roof of middle ear. Now we can see this roof, it is prolonged backward to form the roof of the mastoid antrum, as well as it is prolonged forward to form the roof of the canal for tensor tympani. Now here there lies the partition that I am going to tell you later on. Now this is the canal for tensor tympani muscle, and this is forming the roof of canal for tensor tympani. Clear? Now in young children, the roof presents a gap at unossified petrosquamous suture where the middle ear is in direct contact with the meninges, but in adult it is ossified. Clear? Now coming to the second wall, that is the floor of the middle ear cavity. The floor, it is also called as jugular wall because it is formed by the jugular fossa. Now the floor, it is responsible for separating the middle ear from the superior bulb of internal jugular vein. So this is the superior bulb of internal jugular vein, which is separated by means of floor. Near the medial wall, the floor presents a canaliculus which is called as tympanic canaliculus, and through this tympanic canaliculus passes the tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve. So this is the tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, this yellow colored. It is tympanic branch of ninth nerve, that is the glossopharyngeal nerve, and it goes to the medial wall of the middle ear cavity. Clear? So this is the floor. It is formed by the jugular fossa, and it is responsible for separating the superior bulb from the middle ear cavity. Now coming to the anterior or carotid wall. So the anterior wall, it is also called as carotid wall. Now the anterior wall, it is constricted. Why it is constricted? Due to approximation of medial and lateral wall and descent of the roof. When we have seen the middle ear as a cube, if you remember, we have seen that it is somewhat like it, and this represents the anterior wall. So due to approximation of this lateral wall and the medial wall as well as descent of the roof, this anterior wall, it is constricted. It consists of three parts: superior, middle and inferior part. Now superiorly there is opening of canal for tensor tympani. So this is the canal for tensor tympani. Tensor tympani muscle passes through it. In the middle there is opening of auditory tube. So here there is opening of the auditory tube. This is opening of auditory tube. Inferiorly there is a thin plate of bone which is forming the posterior wall of carotid canal, which separates the middle ear from the internal carotid artery. Now in this carotid canal there lies the internal carotid artery, which is separated from the middle ear by means of this plate of bone, which is forming the part of anterior wall of middle ear cavity. And this plate, it is perforated by superior and inferior caroticotympanic nerves and tympanic branch. Clear? So this is the anterior or carotid wall. Now in the anterior wall we have seen that there is a partition between the canal for tensor tympani and the opening of auditory tube. This partition, it extends backward on the medial wall in the form of a curved process, and it is called as processus cochleariformis. It is called as processus cochleariformis. The tensor tympani muscle which passes through this canal, this muscle, it passes through the canal and then it take this as a pulley and it turns laterally at about 90 degree to reach the handle of malleus. Now this tensor tympani muscle, it passes and it turns laterally. Now on the lateral aspect, what is there? Tympanic membrane. On the inner aspect of tympanic membrane, there is malleus. So this muscle goes laterally and go to the handle of malleus. Clear? So this is the anterior wall. Now coming to the posterior wall, which is also called as mastoid wall. Now this is the posterior wall of the middle ear cavity, and this shows some features which we are going to see from above downward. So first, there is adductus to antrum, which is the opening between the epitympanic recess and the mastoid antrum. So this is addutus to antrum, which we have already seen. Clear? Now second feature it shows is the fossa incudis. Now to see the fossa incudis, we have to go to the view of lateral wall. This is the view of medial wall. Now we will go to the view of lateral wall showing the tympanic membrane. For this again we will go to the almost the same diagram showing the roof. This is again the mastoid process. Then this is the facial canal with stylomastoid foramen. Anteriorly there is canal for the internal carotid artery. This is the jugular fossa. This is processus cochleariformis that we have already seen between these two openings. Clear? Now as this is the lateral wall, we are going to see the tympanic membrane over here, and we know that on the inner aspect of the tympanic membrane there lies the ear ossicles that we have already seen. So this is the malleus with its handle and this is the incus. Clear? With its short process. Now fossa incudis, it is a depression which is present over here and it is attached to the short process of incus by means of a ligament. So this is the fossa incudis and this is the short process of incus. Clear? Details of ear ossicles we are going to see later on. After that, there is a conical projection called pyramid. So this conical projection again we are going to see in the medial wall. Now means view of medial wall, but it lies posteriorly. So here there is a conical projection that is called as the pyramid, and this pyramid, it has an opening for the passage of tendon of stapedius muscle, and this stapedius muscle, it is inserted into the posterior surface of neck of stapes. Now as this is the medial wall, we are able to see the promontory. What is promontory I will tell you later on. Now here there lies a fenestra vestibuli, and here I will go for the drawing of the stapes, that is one of the ear ossicle. So stapedius muscle, it comes out of the apex of the pyramid and it take insertion on the neck of the stapes. So this is the stapedius muscle. This is a conical projection called as pyramid. This is stapes bone and this is stapedius muscle. Clear? Then lateral to the pyramid. Now lateral means again we are coming to the lateral wall. So lateral to the pyramid, near the posterior edge of tympanic membrane, there is a canaliculus which is called as posterior canaliculus, and this canaliculus, it is meant for passage of chorda tympani nerve, which is a branch of facial nerve. As this is a canal for facial nerve, there lies the facial nerve in this canal. It gives a chorda tympani nerve which passes through this posterior canaliculus, and through this canaliculus it enters the middle ear cavity. Clear? So this is about the posterior wall or mastoid wall. Now coming to the lateral wall or the membranous wall. Here I haven't drawn the mastoid antrum, so I will go for the drawing with the mastoid air cells. Yeah. Now coming to the lateral wall or the membranous wall. So this is the view of lateral wall, and we know that lateral wall, it is responsible for separating the middle ear from external acoustic meatus. It is formed mainly by the tympanic membrane along with tympanic ring and sulcus, and partly it is formed by the squamous temporal bone. Now close to the anterior margin of the tympanic membrane, this is anterior wall, this is anterior aspect and this is the posterior aspect. So close to the anterior margin of the tympanic membrane, there are two small openings. One is the petrotympanic fissure and one is called as anterior canaliculus. So this is petrotympanic fissure and this is anterior canaliculus. Clear? Now petrotympanic fissure, it lodges the anterior process and ligament of the malleus, so as well as it transmits the tympanic branch of maxillary artery. Clear? Whereas anterior canaliculus, it is meant for the chorda tympani nerve, and it is through this canaliculus that chorda tympani nerve leaves the middle ear cavity to emerge at the base of the skull. So chorda tympani nerve, it enters through the posterior canaliculus, then it passes in the middle ear cavity and then it emerge out of the anterior canaliculus. Clear? So this is about the lateral or membranous wall. Now coming to the last wall, that is the medial wall. Medial wall, it is also called as labyrinthine wall. Okay. Now the medial wall, for this we will go to this diagram showing the view of medial wall. Medial wall shows numerous features. We will go to all the features one by one. Clear? Now first there is the promontory. So this is this rounded bulging which I have drawn. It is the promontory. It is nothing but the rounded bulging produced due to first turn of cochlea. Then tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve ramifies on it and it forms the tympanic plexus. Clear? So this is the promontory. Then next feature is the fenestra vestibuli. Now fenestra vestibuli, it is an oval opening. Fenestra vestibuli, it is oval opening which is present posterior-superior to the promontory. It leads into the vestibule of internal ear and it is closed by footplate of the stapes. This is stapes bone, one of the ear ossicle. Its footplate closes the fenestra vestibuli. Then third feature is the prominence of facial canal. Now the prominence of facial canal, it runs backward just above the fenestra vestibuli. It then descends behind the posterior wall to end at the stylomastoid foramen. So this is stylomastoid foramen. Clear? So this is the prominence of the facial canal. Then coming to the next feature, that is the fenestra cochlea. It is also called as fenestra rotunda. It is a round opening which is situated posterior and inferior to the promontory. Clear? So this is the fenestra cochlea. This fenestra cochlea, it opens into the scala tympani of the cochlea, which is present in the internal ear, and it is closed by means of secondary tympanic membrane. If you remember, in this diagram we have seen this is the secondary tympanic membrane which is present below the promontory. So this secondary tympanic membrane, it is responsible for closing the fenestra cochlea. Yeah. Then coming to the next feature, that is the sinus tympani. It is a depression behind the promontory. So this is sinus tympani. Now this sinus tympani, it marks the position of ampulla of posterior semicircular canal, and last is the processus cochleariformis. Now detail of the processus cochleariformis already we have seen. Clear? So this is about the medial wall. Thus this is all about the boundaries of middle ear. So to summarize, so we have seen in the boundaries, first there is roof, which is also called as tegmental wall. It is formed by the tegment tympani, responsible for separating the middle ear cavity from the middle cranial fossa. Then second we have seen the floor, which is also called as jugular wall, and it is formed by the jugular fossa. It is responsible for separating the middle ear cavity from the superior bulb of internal jugular vein. It presents tympanic canaliculus, which is responsible for passage of tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. Third wall we have seen the anterior wall. It is also called as carotid wall, and we have seen its three parts: superior, middle part and inferior part. Superior part, it is the canal for tensor tympani. Middle part, it is the opening of auditory tube, and inferior part, it forms the posterior wall of canal for internal carotid artery and responsible for separating it from the internal carotid artery. It also shows the presence of processus cochleariformis, which is partition between the two canals. Then we have seen the posterior or mastoid wall. So this is the posterior or mastoid wall, and here we have seen the presence of pyramid through which passes the stapedius muscle, which take insertion on the neck of the one of the ear ossicle, that is the stapes. Clear? Then here we have seen the presence of fossa incudis, which is responsible for joining to the short process by means of ligament. We have seen here the presence of posterior canaliculus, which is responsible for passage of chorda tympani nerve, through which chorda tympani nerve enters the middle ear cavity. Clear? Then we have seen on the lateral wall, which is also called as membranous wall. Now in this membranous wall, in this we have seen that the lateral wall, it is mainly formed by the tympanic membrane, and there is presence of two openings on its anterior aspect, that is the petrotympanic fissure and the anterior canaliculus. petrotympanic fissure, it lodges the anterior process and anterior ligament of malleus. Anterior canaliculus is for the chorda tympani nerve, through which chorda tympani nerve leaves the middle ear cavity. Lastly, we have seen the medial wall, which is also called as labyrinthine wall, and it shows the presence of promontory, that is the bulging, rounded bulging produced by the first turn of cochlea, which is present in internal ear. It shows the presence of fenestra vestibuli. It shows the presence of prominence of facial canal. It shows the presence of fenestra cochlea, which is covered by means of secondary tympanic membrane. It shows the presence of sinus tympani, and finally it shows the presence of processus cochleariformis. Now coming to the contents of middle ear cavity. The middle ear contains mainly three small bones that we have called the ear ossicles, and they are malleus, incus and stapes. It also contains ligaments of the ear ossicle. Then it contains the two muscle, namely tensor tympani muscle and stapedius muscle. It also contains vessels which are supplying and draining the middle ear. Then there are nerves, mainly the chorda tympani nerve and the tympanic plexus. Apart from it, it also contains air. So these are the contents of middle ear cavity. Some of the contents we are going to see in detail. Now the mucous membrane lining the middle ear cavity invests all the content and forms the numerous vascular folds which project into the cavity, and this gives a typical appearance that is called as honeycombed appearance. So this typical appearance is due to the numerous vascular fold in the middle ear cavity. Yeah. Now coming to some of the contents one by one. So first, coming to the ear ossicles, we have already seen there are three ear ossicles, namely malleus, incus and stapes. So first, coming to the malleus. Now the malleus is so called because it resembles a hammer, and it is the largest and most laterally placed ossicle. It has following parts. So to see the part, we will go to the diagram of the malleus. So this is the head of the malleus, neck, then this is the handle of the malleus, this is the anterior process, and here there lies the lateral process. I can't show you the lateral process because we are seeing this ear ossicle from the medial aspect, but here there will be the position of lateral process. Clear? So this is head, this is neck, this is the anterior process, here there will be lateral process, and this is the handle of the malleus. Clear? Now coming to the head. Head, it is rounded and it lies in epitympanic recess. We have already seen its relations. So it lies in epitympanic recess and it articulates posteriorly with the incus, head of incus. Clear? Now neck, you can see it is related medially to the chorda tympani nerve. Anterior process, it is connected by anterior ligament to the spine of sphenoid through petrotympanic fissure. And then lateral ligament, which lies over here, it is given from the upper end of the handle, and it gives attachment to the anterior and posterior malleolar fold. This we have already seen when we have seen the tympanic membrane, and because of this there are two parts of the tympanic membrane, pars flaccida and the pars tensa. Clear? And then finally the handle of the malleus. The handle of the malleus, it runs downward backward and medially, and it is attached to the upper half of the tympanic membrane, and it receives the insertion of tensor tympani muscle. Clear? So this is about the malleus, head, neck, anterior process, lateral process, and the handle. Now coming to the second bone, that is the incus, which is also called as anvil. Now it is so called because it resembles the anvil which is used by blacksmith. It also resembles a premolar tooth. It has following parts. So it has body, then it has short process, and it has long process. Clear? So this is the body of the incus. This is the short process of incus, and this is the long process of incus. Clear? Now first coming to the body, you can see the body articulates with the head of the malleus, and here it forms incudo-malleolar joint, which is a saddle type of synovial joint. Then short process, here we can see the short process, it projects backward and it is connected by a ligament to the fossa incudis. This we have already seen. This is fossa incudis, and it gives this, it is attached to the short process by means of ligament. Then long process, it extends downward just behind and parallel to the handle of malleus, and its tip bears a knob-like structure which is called as lentiform nodule, and this lentiform nodule, it is meant for articulation with the third ear ossicle, that is the stapes. Clear? So this is incus with body, short process and long process. Now coming to the third ear ossicle, that is the stapes. Now it is so called because it is shaped like a stirrup, and it is the smallest and most medially placed ossicle in the middle ear. It has following parts. Now it has a small head, then it has neck, two limbs, anterior and posterior limbs, and foot plate. Clear? So what are the parts? It has head, it has neck, then these are the limbs, and this is the foot plate of the stapes. Clear? Now head, you can see it is small and it has cup shaped depression which articulates with lentiform nodule of incus, and here it forms incudostapedial joint, which is a ball and socket type of synovial joint. Clear? Neck, it is narrow and it provides insertion to the stapedius muscle. This we have already seen. Clear? So this is neck, which is narrow portion. Then coming to the two limbs, the two limbs, they diverge from each other, anterior and posterior limb, and they are attached to the foot plate. Then finally coming to the last part, that is the foot plate. The foot plate of the stapes, it is also called as foot piece. It is also called as base. It is oval in shape and it fits into fenestra vestibuli. This we have seen. This is the oval opening called fenestra vestibuli in the middle ear, and foot plate of the stapes fits into the fenestra vestibuli. Clear? So this is all about the three ear ossicles. Malleus, which is largest and most laterally placed, then incus, and then is the stapes, which is smallest and most medially placed ear ossicle. Now coming to the next content, that are the muscles of middle ear. Now we have seen there are two muscles, that is the tensor tympani and the stapedius. So first coming to the tensor tympani muscle, We have already come across these muscles, but we will go now for the origin and insertion. Now tensor tympani, it is a muscle from the first branchial arch and it takes origin from the wall of auditory tube. Now here we have seen the tensor tympani muscle. This is the opening of auditory tube. Clear? So here lies the auditory tube, and this tensor tympani muscle, it takes origin from the wall of the auditory tube, then it passes backward. Clear? And it take turn of about 90 degree on the processus cochleariformis, and finally it take insertion on the handle of malleus. Clear? As it is derived, it is a muscle of first branchial arch. It is supplied by mandibular nerve. And what is its action? Its action is to tighten the tympanic membrane. Clear? What it does? It draws the handle of malleus medially and tightens the tympanic membrane. Then second muscle we have seen, it is the stapedius muscle. Now the stapedius muscle, it is the muscle from second branchial arch and it takes origin, this also we have seen already. Now this muscle, it takes origin from the interior of hollow pyramid, and then the muscle fiber, they passes forward and they take insertion on the neck of the stapes. So this is stapedius muscle. As it is a muscle of second branchial arch, it is supplied by means of facial nerve, and its action is to draw the stapes laterally. Clear? Now, what is the importance of both these muscles? Both these muscles, tensor tympani and the stapedius, they contract reflexly and simultaneously and exert damping effect of sound vibration to protect the internal ear from loud sound. And therefore, if there is paralysis of the stapedius muscle, it will result in a condition called hyperacusis. And that means, in this condition, a whisper is represented as a noise. Clear? The condition is called as hyperacusis and it occurs in paralysis of stapedius muscle. So this is all about the muscles of middle ear. Now coming to the arterial supply of the middle ear. Now the middle ear, it is supplied by some large arteries and some small arteries. So we will go first to the large arteries which are responsible to supply the middle ear. So in that there is anterior tympanic branch. It comes from maxillary artery and it enters the middle ear through petrotympanic fissure. Clear? Then second is the posterior tympanic branch. It is a branch of stylomastoid branch of posterior auricular artery and it enters the middle ear through stylomastoid foramen. Clear? So these are the large arteries, anterior tympanic branch and the posterior tympanic branch. Now coming to the small arteries. So in the small arteries there are about 5 arteries. So first is the superior tympanic branch. It comes from middle meningeal artery and it enters through canal for tensor tympani muscle. Then second is the inferior tympanic branch, which is a branch of ascending pharyngeal artery and it enters through the tympanic canaliculus. Clear? Then third small artery is the tympanic branch. Tympanic branch, and it comes from artery of pterygoid canal and it enters the middle ear through the canal for auditory tube. Clear? Then here we will go for the fourth artery. So the fourth artery is the carotico-tympanic branch, which comes from internal carotid artery. And finally there is fifth artery, which is the petrosal branch, and it comes again from the middle meningeal artery and it enters through the hiatus for greater petrosal nerve. Clear? So this is the arterial supply, large arteries and the small arteries. Large arteries, anterior tympanic branch, posterior tympanic branch. Small arteries, superior tympanic branch from middle meningeal artery, inferior tympanic branch from ascending pharyngeal artery, then tympanic branch from artery of pterygoid canal, carotico-tympanic branch from internal carotid artery, and petrosal branch from middle meningeal artery. Now coming to the venous drainage. The veins from the middle ear, they drain into superior petrosal sinus and they also drain into the pterygoid plexus of veins. Clear? So they drain into superior petrosal sinus and pterygoid plexus of veins. Now coming to the nerve supply of middle ear. The middle ear, it is supplied by tympanic plexus over the promontory. We have seen the formation of tympanic plexus over the promontory. Now this tympanic plexus, it is formed by one tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, and that is the ninth nerve, and its fibers are distributed to the mucous membrane of middle ear, to the auditory tube, to the mastoid antrum and air cells, and it is also responsible for giving the lesser petrosal nerve. The second contribution in the tympanic plexus is from the superior and inferior carotico-tympanic nerves, and which they are coming from the sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery, and these fibers are vasomotor to the mucous membrane. Clear? So nerve supply, basically it is from the tympanic plexus. Tympanic plexus, it is formed by tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve and also by superior and inferior carotico-tympanic nerves. So this tympanic branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, its fibers are distributed to mucous membrane of middle ear, auditory tube, mastoid antrum and air cells. It also gives one nerve, that is the lesser petrosal nerve. Whereas this contribution, its fibers are vasomotor to the mucous membrane. Now coming to the lymphatic drainage of middle ear. So there are two group of lymph nodes. One is the pre-auricular group of lymph node and other is retropharyngeal group of lymph nodes. Clear? So this is lymphatic drainage. Now coming to the functions of the middle ear. Now the main function of the middle ear is transmission of the sound waves from external to internal ear through the chain of ear ossicle. We have seen the chain of ear ossicle has been formed by malleus, incus and stapes, which is responsible for transmission of sound waves, and thus it transforms the airborne vibration from tympanic membrane to liquid borne vibrations in internal ear. The second function it is done is to increase the intensity of sound wave by 10 times. So the intensity of sound waves is increased 10 times by the ossicle, but frequency do not change. Clear? Now coming to the last heading, that is the applied anatomy of the middle ear. Now in the applied anatomy, the first point which we are going to see is the fracture of middle cranial fossa. Now if there is fracture of the middle cranial fossa, it will break the roof of middle ear. It will also rupture the tympanic membrane, and this will cause bleeding through ear as well as discharge of CSF. Clear? So through of middle cranial fossa will lead to breaking of the roof as well as rupture of tympanic membrane and bleeding through the ear and discharge of CSF. Then second point which we are going to see is the infection. Now the throat infection, they are commonly spread to middle ear through auditory tube and cause the otitis media. We know that auditory tube, it is connecting the middle ear cavity with the nasopharynx and therefore the infection spreads through it. Now once there is the pus in the middle ear, it may go to any direction. So for this we will go to our previous diagrams which we have already seen. Now so in this we have seen that this is the middle ear, this is internal ear and this is the external ear. If there is pus in the middle ear, it may spread to the external ear after the rupture of tympanic membrane. Clear? So if there is rupture of tympanic membrane, it may spread to the external ear. Then for other direction we will go to this diagram. So if there is pus in the middle ear cavity, it may erode the roof and it may spread upward causing meningitis and brain abscess. So it can cause the meningitis and brain abscess if it erode the roof. It may erode the floor and it may spread downward causing thrombosis of the sigmoid sinus and internal jugular vein. We know that this floor is related to the superior bulb of internal jugular vein and it may cause thrombosis of internal jugular vein and sigmoid sinus. Clear? Then it may spread backward causing the mastoid abscess. If it spread backward, it first goes to mastoid antrum, then it spread to mastoid air cell causing the mastoid abscess. Clear? Then it may erode the thin wall of the facial canal and may spread to the facial nerve causing the facial palsy. And finally, it may go more deep in the medial wall to cause labyrinthitis, which will cause vomiting and the vertigo. Clear? Now we have seen that it may cause the mastoid abscess. Now chronic otitis media and the mastoid abscess, they are responsible for persistent discharge of the pus through ear. Otitis media, it is more common in children than adult because the auditory tube is short and it is more or less horizontal, thus providing easy access to infection of middle ear from the nasopharynx. Clear? So this is regarding the infection. Now coming to the third point, that is the inflammation of the auditory tube. So inflammation of the auditory tube, it may result in the common cold, and if it occurs, it causes pain in the ear which is aggravated by swallowing due to blockage of tube, and this pain can be relieved by decongestant drops in the nose. Clear? So this is inflammation of auditory tube. Now coming to one pouch, that is the Prusac pouch. Now this pouch, where it is present, we will see it first. Now we know that the tympanic membrane, it is related to malleus on its medial aspect. Now this is tympanic membrane, this is external acoustic meatus. Now this is the middle ear cavity, and here I will go for the drawing of malleus. Clear? Now this is the Prusak pouch, which is bounded on anterior side by the on lateral side by the pars flaccida, on medial side by the neck of malleus. Superiorly, it is bounded by lateral ligament of malleus. This ligament goes from tympanic notch to head or neck of malleus, and inferiorly it is bounded by lateral process. Now, what is the importance of this pouch? It does not drain easily, and if there are inflammatory exudate in the pouch, it will lead to perforation of pars flaccida. Clear? So, this is the Prusak's pouch. Then coming to one more point in the applied anatomy, that is the otosclerosis. Now, what is the otosclerosis? Now, otosclerosis is a condition where there is bony fusion takes place between the footplate of stapes and the margin of fenestra vestibuli. It is common in the medial wall of middle ear, and if it occurs, it will cause loss of mobility of the stapes, and if there is loss of mobility of the stapes, it will result in deafness. Clear? Now, to cure it, what we will do? If mobility is lost, we will naturally do the mobilization operation. We will first try for the mobilization operation. In that, what we are going to do, the pathological bone which has been formed, it is chiseled away to re-establish the mobility of stapes. But if due to some reason this mobilization operation it got failed, then what we are going to do? Our second option is the fenestration operation, and this fenestration operation is done by making a new opening in the medial wall of the tympanic cavity, and this newly formed opening, it is then covered by a skin flap from the external acoustic meatus, and then through this opening sound waves are transmitted to the internal ear. Thus, the fenestra vestibuli, which is occluded by otosclerosis, otosclerotic stapes, is completely bypassed. Clear? So, this is all about the applied anatomy of the middle ear.